They say I'm acting crazy, but I just wanna lie in the sun. Whoa, lie in the sun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 829 with a review of Project Hail Mary. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you. This week, we had a little bit of break while I was doing some traveling. We have now reconvened. We have docked our ships. We are here to talk about an exciting little film, Project Hail Mary. We are back. But before we get started, Stephen, how do we want to handle the Rocky problem question?
It is a good question. I know that the trailer already reveals the existence of Rocky. I don't remember if the trailer reveals the visual of Rocky.
The first one hints at it. Every trailer after that, full on
It just goes full Baby Yoda.
Then
I think we
Yoda.
ripped the Band-Aid off. I think we just can acknowledge. I will follow your lead slightly because it sounds like you have seen the trailers, but I think the presence of Rocky is completely fair game.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, Stephen. After the first trailer, first of all, after the first trailer, I was like, I'm going to watch the hell out of this movie. But I also immediately went and read the book in a weekend because I was like, I don't want to see any future trailers for this movie because it's already showing me way too much. For me, I'm really annoyed at the marketing. I get that what they did was an accomplishment and they want to sell people on the movie. They don't want you to think they're just doing Sunshine. They want you to know that this is much more than that.
Right.
And they want to put what they're doing on full display. But it's really annoying to open TikTok and just have Rocky there standing next to Ryan Gosling and just be like, hey, come watch our movie. And you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they're not trying to be like that Canadian song from when I was in middle school, Steal My Sunshine.
Sure.
You don't know that? Steal My Sunshine.
Yeah. But what does that have to do with...
Because they're not just being Sunshine. They're not stealing the plot. They're doing their own thing.
Okay, got you now.
Though actually, kind of spoilers for Sunshine. There's maybe more overlap even in that twist than people would expect.
So we're just gonna acknowledge, I guess, the existence of Rocky, like we just kind of did. It's gonna be hard to talk about this film. I guess it opens us up to be able to talk a little bit more about the film without having to go directly into spoilers. That Band-Aid is gone.
Fully ripped.
Awesome. So I guess it's time go then, right, Stephen?
Yep. It's time go.
Should we get into it then, Stephen?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right, let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for Project Hail Mary and then go ahead and give everybody a review.
Please state your name.
Ryan Grace. I just woke up from a coma. I'm several light years from my apartment. And I'm not an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut.
If you don't go, you die. With the rest of us. The sun is dying. You are the only scientist who might know what this says.
I'm just a teacher at Grover Cleveland Middle.
You have a doctorate in molecular biology. I need you to come with us. This is Project Hail Mary. The sun is not the only star dying. Every star was infected by its neighbor, except one.
Why?
We don't know.
Which is why we built a ship to go there and find out.
It's 11.9 light years away. The astronauts die in space.
It's what you Americans would call a long shot.
Hail Mary. I get it. Who on earth is going to sign up for this?
If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go extinct.
You'll find a solution.
You are my solution.
I put the not in astronaut. I've never done anything. I've never done a spacewalk. I can't even moonwalk. understand the stakes. I do. But my place is in the classroom.
The world is counting on you.
This might be very hard for you to understand. But some people are not good at things.
You know who you are. You're gonna do great.
I conquered zero G in 5 hours.
Object approaching.
Oh my God. So, I met an alien. He's kind of growing on me. At least he's not growing in me, you know, which was a concern for a little while. I'm Grace. I'm gonna call you Rocky. Thumbs up. No, that's thumbs down. We do the thumbs up. It's close enough.
All right, so that was the trailer for Project Hail Mary. A science teacher wakes up alone on a spaceship. As his memory returns, he uncovers a mission to stop a mysterious substance killing Earth's sun, and that an unexpected friendship may be the key. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Project Hail Mary?
I mean, I think this movie fucking rules. It does exactly what it sets out to do. It makes a grand space adventure that has the science nerdiness of The Martian. I know that isn't a clever comparison at all because the author of the novel is the same author, but it blends that with the extremely silly sentiment of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and it does it on an epic scale. And I thought it was great. I had a big old smile on my face the whole time I was watching it. And that is despite the fact that my screening, I had a very kind of meta screening where this movie is about the sun is dying, right? I don't know if that's a spoiler. Did I just spoil something that has to be bleeped, or are we allowed to say that's like the premise of the movie?
Yeah, that's the premise of the movie.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
Yeah. So the sun is dying. And in San Francisco, power issues meant like 5 separate times during my screening, the projector went out and we had to sit in the dark and wait for it to be booted up. So even with all of those hiccups and the crowd kind of like getting irritated and having a total lack of object permanence where they would stand up to go to the bathroom, even though they fucking know it's going to turn on again in a minute because it has happened multiple times before. Yeah. I still thought this was great. I thought it was propulsive. The energy is retained from beginning to end. Now, do I think this has quite as much meat on the bone as The Martian? I'm not sure. Like, it's been a while since I saw The Martian, but I felt like that really blended a nerdy joy in watching every little thing that Matt Damon came up with like the grand space story. Here, I feel like the joy is carried a little bit more by Ryan Gosling and how just incredibly likable he is, to the point where the science took a little bit of a backseat for me. You know, we can get into nitpicks about things that I think it didn't fully explain, but I didn't care because I was not feeling nitpicky at all while I watched this. I thought this was a totally delightful movie. And one thing that I really enjoy about this movie is that, you know, we talk about Rocky, and we can just say Rocky is a rock alien in this movie. And he is not just a rival style, like, oh, aliens exist and we're going to see them in little snippets and have a grand philosophical question of what it means that they're there. Like, no, he's a little buddy. He is the second character in this movie. He is very much the Grogu to Ryan's Mandalorian. I've never watched the show. Yeah. I assume that's a character name. He is all over the place. And that is like such an interesting kind of daring thing to mash up this I fucking love science type of mentality with not just the existence of an alien, which is fine. We can all agree aliens could exist, and sci-fi has done that before, but the like joyful, comedic, nearly human presence of an alien sidekick, you know, like those two things you could imagine those not working together at all. And this movie just manages to thread both of them in a way that I thought was just really, really endearing. it also is emotional when it needs to be emotional. Like, there are so many movies of the last few years that I feel like for the first hour and a half, I'm like, well, okay, you did a lot for me, but you're definitely not going to make me cry. Like, I know what kind of movie I'm watching. And then they just have a scene where I'm like, God damn it, you got me. You made me emotional. And this movie does it. It establishes real stakes and real relationships, and it pays off in a way that I found great. So yeah, I don't know. I have nitpicks. We can get into all sorts of details about the movie. But at the end of the day, I think the star power of Ryan Gosling is undeniable. The story is a whole lot of fun. The filmmaking is exactly as propulsive as you expect from a Lord and Miller joint. And it has that kind of effortless world building where there are just details all over the place that they don't feel the need to tell you, but that you do feel like compose an entire universe that you could think through. Like, you can tell this is built on the back of a book that thought through every little nook and cranny. So it's like, even if the movie yada yada yada's over it, you feel like there's something underneath it. And that's what I wanted out of this movie. So yeah, I had fun. Now, how did you feel as someone who also read the book? Because I feel like you could have nitpicks of your own in terms of like comparing it to the book, what it chose to omit, what it chose to show. I'm very curious.
Yeah, I mean, I love this film. I you know, from the first trailer, I was like, I know that I'm going to be into this, as I said already. Like, seeing like Phil Lord and Chris Miller are doing their Sunshine based on a book by Andy Weir, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to love this movie. Like, I'm going to be totally into it. But then when that trailer came out, I was like, what? He meets an alien halfway through this movie, and they're just giving that away in the trailer. Like, there's something I'm not getting about whatever they're doing. So I immediately went out and read the book. I read it in basically almost entirely in a Saturday, and then, you know, partially I started on after work on a Friday, and then, you know, finished it on the next day. And I was like, oh, this book is fucking great. I loved everything about it. And all the stuff that like, this film is very, very faithful to the book, and the only thing that it's doing is compressing, because it has to, right? It has to cut things down, and the stuff that it omits is some of that stuff that you are kind of feeling like is missing, like the getting into the real nitty gritty about like the science about stuff, and like the spending all the extra time to actually finish fleshing out the world. And this film does a lot of shorthand on certain things, but it still hits the beat from the book in a way that I think you still get everything you need from the story. But if you read the book, you kind of get like the full experience of it. So I didn't think that the film doesn't drop the ball at all. There are a few things where I'm like, oh, it kind of doesn't hit this beat enough. There's one major reveal towards the end of this film that is a character reveal that I think the book hits so much harder, because it gives you a little bit of more information that you've been getting the whole time, that like when it hits you, you're like, oh, fuck.
Is this the reveal of the motivations of Ryan Gosling's character?
Yeah. So the motivation is the same in the book as it is in the film, but the context around that conversation and the added information about the stuff surrounding why he doesn't remember the motivation is deeper and more sinister, I think, in a way. And it just, it kind of hits harder in a way that just makes you go like, Jesus.
It makes sense. I will say, judging by what you're hinting at, I think I inferred all that, but you're right. Like, it probably could have hit harder than me, like, inferring over time, like, oh, that's probably why this and this and this and this.
Yeah, and I think part of it too in the film is Sandra Hüller's character of Strat is like, her performance humanizes Strat more in the film, and that's probably because I'm watching a character give a performance that is more humanizing. Right. When I read it in the book, it's so much more clinical, right? Strat's character is like, you know, when we watched Fantastic Four, right? I was like, why are we even watching this movie? It's obvious what you have to do, right? Like, that was kind of the joking intro to that film for us, or for me. And Strat's character is very much that exact argument, which is like, why are we even talking about this? I know exactly what has to be done. Everybody just follow my instructions. She's very much emotions gone. Let's just do exactly what needs to be done. Everything has to be, dot the I's, cross the T's. Everything has to be like done exactly as it needs to be done. We get one chance at this. We need to do it. There's no room for mistakes. We just have to kind of do all this stuff, and like emotion needs to be gone from it. And I think that in this film, she has room for the emotion. Her actions are allowed to have weight for her, the human being. And I think for me in the book, when I read it, I felt like she divorced herself a little bit from those emotions. And I think that makes it feel less, she cares when she makes decisions in the film. And like in the book, I feel like she is more of she has a wall up that I feel like the character, like just because you're seeing the human being in the film, like you just feel more connection to her in that way. So those are some of the differences that I feel, but I think overall this film is very much adhering to what the book did. But yeah, I really love what this film does. And part of what we do lose is we don't get to spend as much time with the other characters in the story. We see little glimpses of them, but I think in the book they have a lot more time to spend with them, so you can see like the literal character, I'm doing air quotes right now, of what those people are. Like I was joking with you when we were going through the cast list of like, oh yeah, that guy's character in the book I really, really liked, and like blah 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 blah. Like there's more people that you get to spend time with and you really enjoy them. In this film it's really just like Strat and Ryland Grace and then Rocky, right? Those are really just those three people, and that's all you really get to spend time with. And then Carl,
I'm gonna give
obviously
a little bit to Lionel, the actor from The Bear. I feel like I know who he is too, at
Carl,
least, but that's kind of the other one.
yeah. So those people have like they actually get time to experience stuff, but besides that, like everybody else is kind of just thrown out while the story continues. But one of the things I really, really love about what this film does is, in other sort of world catastrophe sort of stories, we cut to the world, while the characters are floating through space trying to fix the problem, we cut to the world in disarray, right? Like riots in the streets and the stuff that's happening. In this story, we only see the world coming together to solve the problem, which is great, but we still have the conversations about what could happen if we don't solve the problem. Somehow it's so much more terrifying when Strat just says what could happen than when you show riots in the street and people worrying over food and COVID style shelves being empty, you know what I mean? Like it's more terrifying to just have a character say it and you just go like, oh fuck yeah, that's right, So just so I understand, does the book show the present on Earth, or the book pulls that forward, so even by the time Ryland was leaving, that desperation was already starting to happen? So in the book, we only see the flashbacks. So the book is told in the same style as the movie, where it's like the Slumdog Millionaire style, where it's like when he needs the information, he flashes back to where he got the information. So so he has this like retrograde amnesia, and as he's remembering things, he's having the flashback to the thing that reminds him of the thing that he is remembering in the moment. But we never flash back to, quote unquote, present day or past when everything is happening. We never see any of the things that are we never see back on Earth while he's in space. We only see the flashback to before he left, when he's remembering his training or how he got to where he is or how people found the Petrova line or any of that kind of stuff. It's only him in space or before he left, and those are the only two vantage points we get, and it's only ever those two vantage points. So any flashbacks that this movie may have to what's happening on Earth is completely added by this film. But I like that, like, this story in general can be so much more frightening without having to show that. Another thing that's kind of interesting is this film is, in a way, kind of like the best anti-AI story out there. Because, like, this film is just like, and they kind of go into it more in the book, but you do get it in the film, where it's like everything is just on whiteboards. He's doing calculations. There is like a robot in the med bay, but the robot is it's like a dumb robot that can only do individual commands based on what it's given. It does not think, quote unquote. It only responds to direct inputs, like give me food, it gives food.
Right.
It can't think. And like they spend more time on the book talking about it, where it's like nothing can go wrong. So everything has to be direct input, direct output. Only certain things can take action. Nothing can be intuited. Nothing can be think for itself. It has to be like direct things. So everything is like calculations done on a whiteboard. In the book, there's a lot of Excel spreadsheets stuff that's going on. So it's like nothing is like Jarvis, run me a simulation of this thing. It's all just doing long division, trying to figure out how to do all these calculations.
I feel like the movie has a little bit more Jarvis. Their interface with the ship control, at least, feels like it is a bit more high-level conversational in what it's like willing to calculate or show them.
So I think Ryan is or Ryland. I don't know who to refer to. But I think
Ryan Gosling.
I think he is talking to a computer that is not actually talking to him. I think the computer reads like error messages essentially, and I think he is, as a way of dealing with his isolation, talking to the computer as a Tom Hanks talking to the volleyball on an island. I think he's having a quote unquote conversation with a thing that is not actually reciprocating the conversation. So that's my thoughts.
I mean, either way, you could treat this as, if not an anti-AI story, at least an anti-dependence on AI, because it's like you need to know stuff on your own, because if you are suddenly stranded, nowhere near AWS, who knows where the nearest AWS instance was from where he was. You better understand how things work. And it also carries something that I really like when I think about science or technology, which is that like truly understanding something means understanding it to a level where it can be simplified and you can express it based in simple concepts to someone else. And that is very, very, very much a key part of this movie, in the ability, I guess it isn't a spoiler to say this, the ability for Rocky and Ryland to communicate is almost entirely about a shared understanding of science and being able to be like, let's zero in on the core principles and then build up from there. Yeah. And I just really like that being depicted in a movie.
And that's the thing too, is like I had talked to you before about one of my fears was like, I didn't know if you were going to like this film, not because you're incapable of liking this film, but because I was like, all right, I don't know if he'll like the cute little buddy. And I don't know if he'll feel like this is too much Arrival. Or if you were like, I don't know, I really love Arrival, and this is kind of trying to do the Arrival thing with like the translation and all that kind of stuff. But for me, like in Arrival, right? Arrival it's a first contact story, right?
Right.
But the whatever pods, they're not first contacting with the people, right? Like they're intelligent and they're like, you got to learn my language, right? But this is a first contact story where Rocky is just as excited about first contact with Ryland Grace as he is with Rocky. So they are both having a first contact story of their own, where when Rocky goes home, he's going to tell everybody about his first contact story, right? So it's like they are both having their Project Hail Mary moment, and they both could have their own movie where their people are going to watch their version of the movie, right? So it's like, that's what makes it so fun and so entertaining, is like they both get to have these experiences together, and they both get excited when the other person learns something, or they both, like when Rocky's calling him, like Ryan Gosling, dumb, or like, oh, humans are so dumb, they don't get this one thing. Like those kind of things are so fun and inventive that like I couldn't help but like just be like overjoyed by like those little moments here and there. Like it's just so fun and inventive. Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, like I even mentioned Arrival as a thing this isn't. Like to me, it is so different in how it is tackling this kind of material. It's also much more nuts and bolts. Like Arrival is about like this meeting of these two different types of creatures, and it's more of this grand, like they think about time differently than we do, story. This is very much more like, all right, you're naked on a desert island, and you have to somehow build back up into inventing computers. How do you start? Like this is very much like you have to go brick by brick by brick and just piece it together. And like, could I nitpick? Are there certain words that I don't think they would have learned over this time, given the other words that Rocky does not know? Yeah, I think like a lot is kind of fudged for the sake of having fun dialogue in this movie. But the intention of showing how you build up, I find really fun. Just as a super side detour, they mention that Rocky, his race of creatures, they don't understand relativity. Like they haven't discovered it yet. And I assume that comes from the fact that they don't perceive light directly. But I couldn't for the life of me imagine like how you could build a spaceship without understanding those principles. You know, does the book nerdily get into all that stuff and how their technology is different? I mean,
the book just comes down to the idea of just the speed of light problem of like, as you approach the speed of light, you know, time slows down. Like that was just the pure thing. 'Cause in the book they talk about, I'm trying to not get too much into this, just too much spoilers, but Rocky's journey took less time than they had calculated it taking, specifically because he didn't understand that as they approached the speed of light, time for them in the ship would be less than the people back on his planet.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fun. I will say, and I don't know if all my little details should go in a spoiler section. I have no idea what is considered spoiling and what isn't. But one thing that I feel like is safe to say is in the example of like the movie kind of outsmarting you or having world building that you didn't know it had. So they take pains to show us that Rocky, his species, don't see light, right? So displays and stuff don't work for them. And then there are scenes later in the movie where they are interacting with displays, like videos in 360. And a part of my brain went like, movie, you're disobeying your own laws. I don't like that. And then I saw they had this like little tactile converter that Rocky had that like takes light as input and outputs like a tactile depth map that he can see. And I was like, God damn it, movie, you really thought through everything. Or I assume the novel thought through everything. But there are little things like that I really, really appreciated about the movie. And they never bother to tell you. Like, blink and you miss it. You know, plenty of people probably didn't even see it. But I saw it, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's, like, working on it in the film. And then they do give you a view from Rocky's vantage point, at least, to show you kind of, like, his thing. And then you do see a glimpse of the little tablet. But... it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I also just want to mention, like, this movie is so colorful for being a movie based in space. Yeah. Like, I guess Sunshine was kind of colorful if the color is, like, yellow or orange.
The color is straight up sunlight.
Yeah, exactly. But this movie, it just, Phil Lord and Chris Miller really found a way to make this be beautiful and not very samey, you know, while also feeling like a grounded is a stretch. Because again, there's a little buddy in the whole movie, but it feels in a way like a grounded space movie, not a fantasy, but it has a lot of the thrill of a fantasy in terms of just the vibrant look and feel of everything. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. The when you flip on the petroscope and you go into that full, like, immersive red kind of look, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I loved it.
Anything else exciting you want to talk about, Steven?
I guess another example of, like, this film just garners enough goodwill that my nitpicks don't matter. And this might be something the book covers too. But so in flashbacks, we learn about how Grace got to this place. And we don't need to talk about all the reasons why. But there are flashbacks to exploring and discovering and trying to understand what is happening to the sun. And in order to make it palatable as a movie, this is a common thing that happens. In order to be palatable to a movie, whatever they discover has to be intuitive enough that the audience can pick up on it and can follow the thread. But that means there are like ideas that happen between Lionel Boyce from The Bear and Ryan Gosling that are like extremely obvious that every other scientist on the planet would have had that same idea, but we have to watch it and see it as like a novel, mind-blowing thing that only these particularly creative people would have come up with. And what I want to say is like my brain thought that, but my heart doesn't care, because watching them high five and build things with duct tape is so goddamn entertaining. I don't mind that it is probably dumbing down the process a little bit for my enjoyment. It feels like a movie that is it's smart enough to know when it is dumbing things down for you and when it isn't, and I kind of carry enough goodwill to not mind when it's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, they do simplify it a bit. There's more time spent in the experimentation phase, and it's definitely at the beginning. Think about it this way. Essentially, astrophage is like a space bacteria, right? Nobody knows what it is. They sent a probe into space. They collected a very small amount, and they essentially have like, a tiny bit. And they don't know what exposing any one person to it is going to be. So, Ryan Gosling is like patient zero, potentially, for some maybe space virus, right? So they let him experiment first, not because he's a genius, but because he's the one person who rejected a certain idea.
Yeah.
And so at least he's the person who can test the thing, because this seems like this idea might hold water, literally.
Yeah.
And then so they only want to expose one person to it. Then as soon as he may or may not make one breakthrough, they're shipping it to everyone else. And then it's like, as many breakthroughs as he can make, everybody else is making those same breakthroughs in real time. That's why, like, as soon as he finds something out, like, before he can even get to a room where he can tell people about it, everybody else is already replicating those same things in real time, because it's like everybody is monitoring everything at once, because they literally can't waste a single second, right? So it's like, everybody is, and also any experiment you conduct, you don't want to risk destroying that particle, because if you lose that, like, you can't run any more experiments. So it's like, so it's not a thing of like, did I think about it? It's like, does the thing I want to try risk me not being able to do any more experiments with it?
Okay, now I have a big crucial ask. Does the book mention the way he wears his glasses?
I don't remember it mentioning glasses at all.
Because it is such a character trait. It is like a very this is, to me, people talk a lot about the difference between like an actor and a movie star. And I think little details like that are what cement to me that Ryan Gosling is a movie star, which is there are just like behavioral patterns that, and I'm not saying he decided to do this. Phil Lord and Chris Miller might have decided it. Who knows? It could be all over the place. But there is something about the way he carries himself that endears you to him beyond just being like, I am invested in what this character is going to do next. It's like there's swagger is the wrong word, but there's this kind of like joy that exudes from him where I am having fun watching Ryan Gosling have fun being this person. I think that is like a very special thing. And it's something that Lord and Miller are really, really good at, which is movies that make you have fun imagining the fun that the people involved in the movie are having. And I think this really did that in a massive, epic scale in a way that is just super... I can't really think of another movie like this at this scale. Like, I mentioned The Martian before, and I think The Martian does a handful of things better than this movie, but the scale of The Martian is necessarily kind of grounded. Like, he goes on Mars, and then that's where we are, This was much more like Ad Astra or Interstellar to me, in the sense of like, I have no idea where they're going to go next or what else they're going to find. And maintaining that level of playfulness and whimsy while still having the feeling that you're discovering a real thing. You're not discovering like Marvel's Volume or something. Like, you actually feel like, wow, I'm getting to the edges of the universe in an exciting way. yeah, it's dazzling.
But even in The Martian, right? Matt Damon is essentially like Ethan Hunt, right? Like he is like a badass who happens to be stuck on Mars, and he's gonna badass his way. He's gonna science the shit out of this.
Yeah, it's too bad he's not Ethan Hawke, the grabber, because then he would have been able to, he might have not even been in that mess if I remember correctly. how this happened. Sorry, continue with your analogy.
So it's not just that he's competent, it's that he's also like confident, right? Like he is a person who's like, yeah, this is just a Thursday for me, like sometimes I'm stuck on Mars, sometimes I'm stuck on, I don't know, maybe the moon, sometimes I'm maybe stuck in the middle of the ocean. Like I'm just a guy who gets stuck on places, and I'm just going to survive because that's what I do. Ryan Gosling is playing a character who never wanted to be there in the first place. Like he was like, this is an interesting problem. I'm helping out. I'm not excited to be, I put the not an astronaut. This wasn't my journey to be on. I just find myself here, and he is learning. Like he is competent. He has the skills to do it, but he is learning to find the reason to do it, right? Like he is trying to become a person who can be a Matt Damon, but he is not by nature a Matt Damon, right? He is not just the guy who is going to swing in and do the cool thing. He is a guy who is, and he is like back on Earth. He is actually a lonely guy who like, they spend more time in the book where he's trying to remember who he is, and he's like having flashes of his apartment, and he's like realizing that he lives alone, and he's trying to figure out what he does, and he's like trying to understand who he is, and he's like trying to figure out if he's a loser or not. And like he's kind of, there's some sadness to him, right? And now he's finding himself alone on this spaceship careening through space, trying to figure out, like, he's trying to save all of humanity, but like it's sort of like Schrodinger's humanity, right? Like he doesn't actually know if anything that he does is going to save them. He's on a one-way journey. So like if he saves everybody or doesn't save everybody, it's no difference to him, really.
Right.
So it's like I kind of wish that there wasn't a character who kind of says the theme of the movie. It's kind of annoying. It's like you have all these extra characters who kind of don't have anything to do, and then one character just like says a line that's like, here's my theme.
Right. I want to say I like the cast that make up all the side characters. I almost think it's a stronger movie if there is nothing. I'm not going to go as far as to say no flashbacks. I think like the flashbacks are important, but I like how contained this movie is, and that it lets us piece things together. Because what's cool about this is it's like, in the hero's journey, there's the refusal of the call is a very important part of it, right? And this is an interesting movie because it is like a hero's journey where the journey is already underway, and the hero has to retroactively decide why they are on it, right? It's like, it's like you didn't, in this moment when you have amnesia, you are not choosing your lot in life, but you can retroactively build meaning behind it. And it's an interesting thing that almost feels like it would be an experimental movie. Like you could definitely imagine a much more like festival-y whatever movie where you watch it and you're like, I don't understand why I'm rooting for anyone here. Well, but they do it in a way that still plays like a regular hero's journey while also like fucking with the structure, in so many different ways.
I was gonna say what movie it is, then I was like, well, it's kind of a spoiler for that.
I caught myself multiple times, even in that explanation, avoiding spoilers by rewording what I was trying to say.
But yeah, I just really love the journey that his character goes on, and just like the place that he arrives by the end of this film, and how meaningful it is for him to make the decisions that he makes at the end of the film. So beautiful film. Yeah,
really, really, really cool. I'm excited to see it again. Like, I'm glad I saw it in 70 millimeter IMAX. I think that was worth it, even if it was a deeply unoptimal experience, but I am excited to watch it again uninterrupted, just to get to better feel the emotional arc of the movie.
Yeah. Cool. Should we get to some verdicts?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Stephen Miller, if you're going to give us a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I am giving it a C must, even though I have nitpicks, like flipping the order of words and how that fits with the actual technology they designed. There are things that my brain could nitpick. It is too much fun. Everything that I want to nitpick, the movie watcher in me thinks they made a better movie by allowing it to do that thing rather than the more perfect thing. And I think this movie is great. This is like, in my mind, I don't want to say pinnacle, but a certain type of blockbuster that is like popcorn flick, fun for the whole family, uplifting. It is hard to imagine someone doing that genre better than this. Like, I think it really, really, really just crushes the assignment in every way.
Yeah. For me, this gets a big amaze. This is a must-see for me. I love this movie. I think the biggest disappointment with this movie is just that I'm not going to be able to watch this IMAX presentation once it's available on digital.
Yeah.
Sad times.
Bummer. I forget. You did make it to the IMAX, right? For your...
Yeah. I saw it Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah. In between my two trips, I flew back to San Francisco just to watch it at the Metreon.
And halfway on the flight, you lost your memory, so you had to land in San Francisco and piece together that you were trying to get to the Metreon.
Yeah. I was like, why did I fly back to San Francisco?
Yeah, this makes no sense.
Yeah, that's right. Let me check my phone, wallet app. Metreon screening on Sunday night. So totally worth it.
Memento Mary.
Yes.
I think it works.
Yeah. Works enough.
It works in multiple levers.
Yeah.
We can talk about it later.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for a review of Project Hail Mary. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. Just because it also takes place on Tau Ceti, you can also find me doing dives in Marathon. So you can find me and steal all my shit and murder me there if you want to. But you can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can find a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. That's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you saw Project Hail Mary. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
They say I'm acting crazy.